So don't mind me. Perfect golden morning sunlight in his face. And no more contact calls, so maybe he was imagining things. Maybe it was him hoping that he heard his mother call earlier. Well, it's always great hearing a new name come through. And morning Faku, it's good to have you on safari with us. And don't be alarmed by the fact that we're in an open vehicle so close to this potentially dangerous animal. What I must explain is that a lot of the animals in Africa have very slowly and gently been habituated by humans, so they are completely wild and they're not tame, but they are comfortable and tolerate us as humans. They don't see us as a food source, and that's been the case for many, many thousands of years. We are the apex predator on the planet, and typically when you do come across wild animals, they will run away from you. So it actually requires a lot of reassuring of wild animals that we are no threat to them, and by never feeding them or harming them, they allow us into their lives and into this ecosystem with very, very little danger. Especially in the vehicles. On foot it's a different scenario, and you do need to be a lot more careful when on a walking safari or when off tracking. But it still is a rush when these animals get close to the vehicles, and I know for a lot of first-timers and guests out here on safari, they can have some incredible adrenaline rushes as these wild animals do walk past the open vehicles. It's a wonderful, wonderful thrill. But thankfully, it's not dangerous, and as long as we respect the animals, they tend to respect us too. Well, this is the castle that Sindile has now claimed for himself. I really thought we were going to see him reunite with his mother there when he let off that contact call. But not looking promising anymore. The last time we got to see them reunite, we were actually with his mother, and she came back into the area where she left him, but he had moved off quite a way, and her soft contact calls weren't heard by him, and she actually started letting off loud rasping calls which travel further. And eventually, after probably about 45 minutes to an hour of tireless calling, he eventually popped into the scene. And thanks, Monica, for reminding me about that sighting that I've just discussed. Wasn't it absolutely awesome? That sighting all started thanks to a big bull giraffe, some of you will remember, who alerted us to the presence of the leopard walking nearby. There's There's a very gentle breeze blowing, and it's a beautiful temperature now. It was quite crisp and cold earlier on, but it is turning out to be a beautiful, beautiful day with a very gentle breeze. I'm wondering if I can reposition the vehicle. It looks quite comfortable here, to a spot where we'll get you less obstructions in the way of his face. This is such a pretty scene that we may as well try and make the most of it. Not sure if it is possible, but worth a try. Don't worry, we're not going to try and chase him off his perch there. We just want to try and get a different spot here, which could be a bit better. Not much, and I'm putting Brian at such a funny angle there, but let's try this for a while. You okay there, Brian?
Yeah.
Brian's got his toes curled up, hooked in to make sure he doesn't scuba exit off the back of this vehicle. Still obstructed, but slightly better, and at least a different view for you to enjoy for now. And as I said, it's warmed up a little bit from 13 degrees Celsius, 55 degrees Fahrenheit when we started, to 17 degrees Celsius, which is about 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we are quite close to him. I'd probably say from where I'm sitting to where he's lying now is about 5 meters. So not far at all. And Deborah in Louisiana asks, are there any protocols in terms of how close you should and can get to the animals? It depends on the area of operation. I know some camps have got very vigilant rules with how close you can get to the various animals, but I'm a believer of you should treat each individual sighting and animal accordingly. To make set and very defined rules, and this is just my opinion, doesn't necessarily mean you are doing the animals any favors. So it does depend on where you work, but guides will try and be as careful and respectful as possible to the animals, otherwise they will just run off and get aggravated, and understandably no guides want their guests to experience that. So it kind of self-polices itself a lot of the time. And in the Sabi Sands, at most of these lodges, the guides are left to their own discretion with how close to get to various animals. Sindile, what did you hear earlier? What was it that caught your attention? Imagine if he's just playing hard to get and Shadow's not far off calling away and he's just enjoying his time alone. I doubt that's the case, but you never know out here. Really frustrated from the fact that we did have a drag mark of a kill that I'm 99% certain he would have made last night. And it looked like something quite considerable in size. It would have been great to see him with his own decent sized kill. So there are always these little frustrations of unknown and mysteries that we will never be able to solve. Interesting questions just come through from Ren, and it's got me thinking. And Ren has asked, would Sindile still respond to a call that's not from his mother? So another leopard trying to call. And if he heard the call clearly, no, he wouldn't. They can tell which leopard is speaking. So the leopards and the lions, when they vocalize, they will know exactly who's saying what. However, if we take this example of what's happened this morning, there could be a scenario where a young leopard like this is left in an area and another female leopard comes back looking for her cubs, and he can very faintly hear her call, and he may therefore respond to it because he can only very faintly hear the contact call and not make out exactly who it is that's speaking to him. So I guess that could happen, but that would be a bit of a bizarre scenario, and typically no, he would only respond to and communicate with his mother. I guess to us all the leopards sound the same, and the leopards probably say the same thing amongst themselves, that us humans all sound the same to them. He's run. What is going on? Where is he running off to? Oh, he seems very excited. He's running quite a long distance. Hold on, everyone, put your tea and coffee down or whatever you're holding on to. It might get a little bit bumpy. I don't want to lose him. And I also do want to see what he's rushing off to. All of a sudden, he just started running. And maybe it is his mother that he heard calling earlier. Let's go and see. I do have a visual of him. He's just up ahead. What I'm going to try and do is take the path of least resistance to get to him. But bear in mind, while we are off-roading, we are causing minimal damage to the trees that we drive over, and the ones we do drive over, we know can just pop up. He's still running ahead of us. What is it? I think it could be his mom. I think we're in luck. He's come quite a distance now, and like I say, maybe it is finally his mother that he will reunite with. Wouldn't that be an incredible thing to share with all of you? I can hear a squirrel alarm calling now, probably at Sindile. And look, he's still moving, listening very intently. Let's see if he doesn't let off another contact call. Just like that, with no warning, he got up and ran off the termite mound. And that's why it's so important to invest time with these animals, even when they appear sleepy with nothing happening. You can never be quite sure what is going to happen next, and that's a perfect example of that. He slowed down his pace a little bit. Initially he was literally bounding off in this direction. He stopped to sniff quite intently there. I wonder what it is that he smelt. Still no contact calls from him, which is interesting. So it feels like there's something worth investigating here, but the fact that he hasn't let off a contact call is strange, because once they hear one another, they'll continue to contact until they see one another, and then they no longer need to communicate via their vocalizations. They can approaching Philemon's cut line, one of the roads here on Djuma, and I'm just going to loop ahead of him. I'm guessing he will continue in this general direction he has been moving in, and we should get some nice views of him in the open here. Just like him, I'm listening very intently, hoping to hear a call from his mother. But other than the birds, all seems quiet for now. Well, we've got a funny comment and question through from Cindy and Wendy, and she would like to know, well, she initially actually said that it was really exciting stuff and that a lot of the viewers were probably more excited than he was to find his mother. And you're probably right, Wendy. And Wendy also asked if and when he lets out these contact calls, could it potentially alert other predators to him? And yes, it certainly could. If there was a lion or any hyenas nearby, that would certainly have an impact on what they do. But what we must remember is that even though there is a small chance that predators could come onto the scene, this young leopard would have come across lion and hyena many times and can escape them by running up big trees that they cannot get up into. So we shouldn't be too worried about him. He's young, but he's a big boy now. And if he was only a few months old, that would be a very different scenario, because at that age they are still very vulnerable and haven't learnt as many lessons as he would have by his age now. Okay, well, he didn't continue out into the open clearing as I thought he may. Another thing that Wendy asked was whether I think he has any emotion and whether he misses his mother. I guess to a degree, but I think he probably misses the fact that she hasn't called him to a meal more than he actually misses her. And these cats do spend lots of time away from their mothers, and they are solitary eventually, so I think he's just fine entertaining himself. And now that he has been moving around for a while, considering he has been away from his mother for so long, I'm almost certain he got a decent meal. I'm guessing whatever he killed last night of a substantial size was stolen by a hyena, but he's certainly not looking in bad shape, and his belly looks more full-bellied than his mother's did when I saw her a couple of days ago. Let's see what he goes and does on those legs. I'm just going to reposition because he may jump up onto that network of fallen down branches. Now, I've been throwing around a few possible theories as to what's going on, and Gilly Manette has put another possible theory through, and that is that could Shadow have potentially been distracted midway between her contact calls and is maybe trying to hunt something now. I guess that is a very good theory that you've put forward to us. And it could be the case. It certainly could, who knows, maybe she let off a few contact calls and then an impala appeared in front of her and she's now trying to catch it. Wouldn't that be great if... Hello, boy. How are you doing? Where's your mom? Wouldn't that be great though if all of a sudden Shadow charged out of the bushes, jumped on an impala, and then they reunited there and then. So very happy you put that theory through, and I hope you are right. They are just such incredibly beautiful animals, these leopard, and a morning like this with perfect sunlight and all the different things he's been doing is certainly filling up my filing cabinets with some very, very happy memories. Okay, well, we're probably going to go now. I think we've spent enough time with him, so we are not, I'm only joking, we're not going to go anywhere. We're just going to reposition and continue following him. We are hugely lucky, both us as the presenters and guides and you as the viewers, with the way that we can guide due to the Safari Live experience, because it's an ongoing, never-ending safari. We aren't forced to race between sightings like a lot of the guides will have to do with their guests who may only be there for 3 days, and during a 3-day stay, understandably, people want to see all the different animals, whereas we are different in that we've got infinite amounts of safaris ahead of us, and therefore we can make the most of any specific sightings that may be worth hanging around for. And this is a perfect example. I never in my guiding career ever spent 3 hours or 2 hours with any one animal, whereas since I've been here, we've been really privileged in being able to sit and spend considerable periods of time with the animals, thus increasing their chances of seeing great things. I'm not sure what he's trying to achieve here, stalking through this fallen down combretum tree. But like I said earlier, he does a good job at keeping himself entertained. Another thing that we have to remember is that there's also two vehicles, whereas other guides out here, their guests don't have the benefits of being able to chop and change between two different guides. They are stuck with only one. Therefore, if, for example, Sindile wasn't performing as he is this morning, he would probably be with James, and as soon as Sindile started to do something, he'd come back. So we all get spoiled here. I think you guys are in the best seat though, because like I just mentioned, you get to see action from two different vehicles. And a lot of the time when you jump across onto James or Brent or Jamie's vehicle, I wish I could come along too. Well, Stephanie, Monica, Anna Marie, and Sophie may have just tuned in more recently. Sorry, not Sophie, Christy may have tuned in more recently and are wondering what I think about his hunger levels. And to me, he certainly does look fairly hungry, but his belly is by no means completely empty, and we did find some drag marks. It looked like he made a kill of a considerable size, maybe a steenbuck or a duiker, something fairly large that when he walked across a road with it in his mouth, it was dangling and touching the road. So not a little mongoose or a francolin which would be suspended in the air, but something a bit bigger than that. And one of the viewers actually spotted a little bit of blood above his right eye, and if we get another close view of him, take a closer look at that, more signs of him having fed on something at least to keep him going. But I certainly don't think his hunger levels are anything for us to worry about. Well, last I saw, he disappeared behind a termite mound, which is, he's playing with us, he's stalking around the termite mound, and he's just popped out into a very pretty view here. Beautiful. Well, one thing's for certain, he is certainly listening very intently. You can see how he's now cocked his head. He's pointing it now in a westerly direction. And are we going to see another contact call? Well, now that we are a bit closer, I don't know if that blood is still above his right eye. I can't see it on my little monitor, but I'm trying to look through my binoculars. I can't clearly see it, but what we can see is this beautiful rosetted cat. I'm interested to hopefully be able to follow his movements until he becomes a big mature male, because it'll be great to see what he turns into many years from now. And all likely probably 4 years from now will be when he can start throwing his weight around. But before then, he's going to be flying below the radar, trying to avoid any dominant male leopards and just keep himself well fed and out of harm's way. And only from, like I say, about 5 years of age will they start to compete for their own territory and start interacting with other dominant males. What may happen is his little pink nose that we can see could become black in color, so that is one change that we could expect. There's no guarantee that it will go that way, but a lot of leopards' noses will become darker as they get older. And Insomniac Josh and Pretty Nightmare, two interesting names of people regarding the night, have both asked when could we expect to see him move off on his own. And I personally think he's going to be around for about another year in this area, even though his mother may have another generation of cubs. He's just going to tag along like one happy family. Those are my thoughts. So I think we will have at least another year or so of viewing. So we will get to see him get a lot bigger, that's for certain, in this next year. And anywhere after that, we could start expect to see less and less of him. Kind of similar to Quarantine and Djuma. They were around until about 2.5 years of age, I think, before they started disappearing. And even still, they come back in every now and then, and we get a few glimpses of them. Quarantine was just on our southern boundary a few days ago. Yesterday he was last seen. And Brent seems to think he may have tracked down and located Djuma on foot, but sadly it was in an area where we could not get a vehicle into. Shame, poor old Brent. That's happened to him a couple of times now, where he's done the hard work of managing to track down the animal, only to find it in an area where he cannot go and show all of you. So let's hope that run of bad luck changes. And Donna is now asking whether Sindile is anywhere near where Quarantine male leopard was last seen yesterday morning with his kudu kill. And sadly that wasn't seen by you, the viewers, so I must just clarify that. James was out there on tracking team, and he drove past, did see a brief glimpse of him, and then by the time I got there, there was no further sign of him. But Donna, we are nowhere near that kill. It's probably about 2.5 miles away from us. But a similar looking area, so if you were making that call on the terrain and scenery around here, I do agree with you, it's a very similar looking area. Well, I've got one more question before we send you across to James for an update. I'm really curious as to what he's been up to. I don't have a clue. I think he may have been tracking the leopard on Arethusa, was the last I heard. But a couple of you would like to know if Shadow would remember where she left him so many days ago, and that's Angie and Jennifer. And I'm very confident that yes, she would remember where she left him. So I don't think that's going to be a problem, and I think the major reason why she may not have already come back is that she's got other business to attend to. I certainly don't think she's forgotten. This is her home, and this is her cub, and for her to forget those two things I don't think is a reality, so I don't think we have to worry about that. Anyway, what fun it's been. Hopefully he will get up and run off this termite mound just like he did off the last one after he's had a bit of a siesta, and we'll be sure to call you back when he does. But for now, I'm sure you're all looking forward to an update from James. Enjoy.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Jiga. You find us very frustrated here on Arethusa. We found some male leopard tracks heading into this block from the other side there, but Andrew and I cannot find them coming out of the block, which is a good thing, except that I think it looked like the male was marking territory, which means that he was walking in a dead straight line, not the sort of weaving that happens with hunting. And so I would expect him to have popped out of this block, but he hasn't. So maybe he is still in the block just behind us. Well, we're going to continue the search for the next little while and see what we come up with. I believe you've been having a marvelous time with Sindile, which is excellent. He is fast becoming my favorite friend that we find here on our Djuma and Arethusa paradises. And I do wonder where his mother is. We did have tracks of a female leopard as well in this area, but I know that she was around here about 2 or 3 days ago, and the tracks didn't look very fresh. So I think she's further north of here right now. The male tracks that we had were big, very big, and perhaps, I don't know, I mean maybe some of you have got an update, but we don't have radio communications. Perhaps it is the Anderson male. They look a bit big to be Tingana. I might be wrong, but perhaps these are the Anderson male's tracks. The morning has it's remained quite cloudy actually, which is quite interesting, and it doesn't look very cloudy, but the sun has not sort of come out and started to warm us up too much. Andrew is still dressed like he's about to rob a bank. The temperature hasn't really sort of got off the ground yet. And I'm driving at this sort of frustratingly slow pace. because I don't want to miss any tracks going across the road. I don't think he's this way. I'm going to turn around again. Maybe he's watching us from the block. I shudder to think how many leopards I have walked or driven past. Watched me go thinking, what a Charlie. Anyway, this is the nature of tracking a leopard. Not easy, unless, actually a really nice way to learn to track a leopard, of course, is to follow young Sindile. Because he has been, especially when his mum isn't around, because he's been around the same area, he leaves A, lots of tracks, and B, you know you're going to find him in a similar kind of place. And so if you're practicing leopard tracking, he's a pretty good one to start on. And a male is often more difficult than a female because they do move such huge distances. And he'll scoot across a road like this almost without seeing it. And then if somebody's driven along here early morning perhaps and not been paying attention, they could easily have driven over his tracks. Let me go back here and have a look. He was following a game path when I lost his tracks in the block. Although I don't see him coming out there. Right. We're very close to Arathusa Lodge now, so we'll just have a look along here for a while and then maybe just pop across to the waterhole there and see what's going on. Andrew, do shout if you see a leopard. Will do. You will. Well, don't shout, just sort of whisper it gently. Plenty of civet tracks all over the place. Oh, the earpiece is out. I believe Nicky Alston was trying to speak with me. Now we're looking for the leopard tracks. Anna Marie, Lily, Ellen, Lee and John. You'd like to know how Andrew's head is. Well, you know, it depends really on what you consider Andrew's normal state of mind to being. The pole has subsequently withered and died, fallen over and been eaten by termites. Andrew's head still sports a fairly impressive graze on the front of it. Now, and the effect on his mental state, we're not really sure. And if you perhaps weren't with us early this morning, Andrew showed a rather sort of unusual artistic streak with his filming this morning, so perhaps there has been some sort of altering of the mind. Thank you for your concern. But I don't think there was anything too serious in the bashing. Hey, Andrew?
Ah, all's good.
All is good. I do wonder if this leopard isn't perhaps looking at us from a termite mound or a bush. Quite near to the Arathusa airstrip, which is now sporting a tarmac strip. So Amanda in Alabama, while we continue this fairly frustrating process of looking for leopard tracks coming across what is in fact a main thoroughfare, and so they could easily be obliterated by some, well, not inconsiderate, but perhaps rushing vehicle this morning. Amanda in Alabama, deep south, you'd like to know about snakes, and it is a question that comes up often, and especially in the wake of seeing that honey badger and trying to postulate what had happened to him. Amanda, snakes do come out at this time of year, especially as it's starting to get a bit warmer, and what that honey badger will do, they will eat snakes, and they will also scrabble in the kinds of places where snakes like to not hibernate but estivate, where they like to rest up and it's cold, and that's in termite mounds. So it's quite possible that honey badger disturbed a whole lot of snakes while it was digging, or not a whole lot of snakes, but disturbed a snake while digging in the termite mound. And it was right at a hole that it seemed to have been excavating when it was killed. So I really don't know. It could have been a snake. It's not impossible, but yeah, I don't know. But there are snakes around, Amanda, and especially as it warms up, there are going to be more and more snakes. We're going to do another about turn here. I don't wish to drive too much closer to the airstrip. Continuing the honey badger discussion, interesting Patty's observation that we saw a few days ago in the middle of the day, two adults running next to each other, quite far from where we saw the dead one today. And Patty, you're saying you don't know that before how many times we've seen them on Wild Earth in the last 8 years. I don't know either. I know that Andrew and I saw, you've seen twice.
Yeah.
And we saw a youngster and mother, and then Jamie saw some the other day, and then of course there were the two we saw a few days ago, and the hapless death this morning. Perhaps you can let us know, prior to this sort of period, what we shall term the modern era, prior to that, how often have honey badgers been seen? Like I say, we see their tracks fairly often. I think the population's fairly healthy, but they are principally nocturnal, so that's why we don't see them very often during the day. Yeah. Right, we're going to continue trying to find where this male leopard has come out of this block, and while we're doing that, we'll send you back across to Scott, who is with the magnificent Sindile, and I'll see you in just a little while.
Welcome back, everyone, and as you can see here, nothing has changed. He's just got more comfortable and is now fast asleep. That call you may have heard faintly was that of a red-crested korhaan calling nearby, and it's a sound we're going to hear a lot more, and hopefully we'll be able to, there it goes, hopefully we'll even be able to show you them doing their display flight, which they use to attract mates. And that will be one call amongst many that we begin to hear in the summer months. There will be about 200 birds that arrive here from various parts of Africa, Europe and Asia, basically doubling the population of birds that we usually see during the winter months. So just over 400 birds we can see here at the most, and the best time to do that is summer. So if you are an ornithologist and wanting to come out here and enjoy not only the big cats but also the birds, your best option would be in summer. And I've just got the book out here to show you the red-crested korhaan, which is up on the top right over here. There's it calling again. And the display flight is awesome. The male will fly up into the air maybe 20 or 30 meters and then stalls its flight completely as if it's been shot and tumbles out of the sky, only to recover at the last moment. And that will be the individual that's probably calling now, the male. And maybe what we can do is try and get you a little bit closer to it. So let's go and try and find this bird, and we'll come back to Sindile. It's not too far away. And we can actually excite the birds by doing their call, and that way stimulate them to do their display flight. So we might do that, but we don't want to confuse the bird too much as to what's going on. So they're always on the ground. So that's where we need to be looking for it, and it sounded like it was coming from somewhere up ahead here. So I just want to get a little bit closer. Hopefully we'll be able to find it. I think it wasn't too long ago that Sindile was actually stalking one of these birds around a termite mound. Come on, little korhaan. Now that we're a little bit closer, if it calls again, we'll hopefully be able to pinpoint where it is. Come on, korhaan, give us one more call. That's a little bit cloudy. It's interesting weather. There's a few little white puffy clouds, which is going to keep us nice and cool today, at least for the time being. A fine layer of haze, you could say, up to the west, sorry, to the east. And it is a very hazy time of year because it's dry and dusty, which makes for some wonderful, wonderful sunsets and sunrises. You can see there that haze I'm talking about. Sindile still is up on the termite mound, so we don't have to rush back to him just yet, and I really would like to try and find this bird. And that way we can see it and hear it at the same time. I don't think we are deep enough into the breeding season to expect a display just yet, but as I said, the calls will continue to increase with intensity and number, and eventually we will be able to capture one of them doing that crazy display for you. It'll be a good opportunity for us to answer a question from Abby, and she's asked, what are those small little holes or flaps on the side of his ears? And you can very faintly see on that side there's a little bit of a kink, and if he was facing us it looks almost like a hole in the side of his ear. Not quite there yet, he needs to face us, but that allows the leopards and lions and dogs to either prick up their ears as they are now, or flatten them against their head when they're stalking. So it could almost be described as a bit of a hinge, which allows the ear to be able to move, as we can see it moving now. So that'll explain that little hole or flap. No different to domestic cats and or dogs. A lot of dogs will also have that very same or similar flap. I'm not convinced on how much longer he can stay in this position for us. I think he may maneuver again shortly. I don't think it may be comfortable for a short period of time, but his back legs are facing to the left and his front are facing to the right, so he's kind of twisted his body into two different directions. And I know it's not the best view of him now, but like I said, I think he may change. And even if we were to drive around onto the other side of the termite mound, there's so much grass in front of his face, I don't think we would get much of a view from there. Well, the good news for James is that I'm fairly certain the route he comes back from Arethusa will bring him along this road so he can pop in and visit. And I believe he's been telling you that Sindile is fast becoming his new best friend out here. It has taken James a while to make friends, but at least finally he has decided that Sindile will be his best friend. And at least they will be able to see one another this morning on his way back. Just to clarify, I obviously was joking. It has not taken James a long time to find friends, quite the contrary. I'd love to know how much time a leopard spends on average cleaning itself every day. And obviously it will vary from day to day, but I'd almost be willing to take a guess on that probably at least about an hour a day they'll spend grooming. Maybe that's a bit much, but quite often before they get up and moving they will groom themselves, so that's also a good indicator for us that he may be planning on heading off again and he's just making himself look pretty before he does so. Now, for those of you who have been following the show for a few months, you will remember that he had both sets of his canines growing together out of both the top and bottom jaws. So it looked like he had these extra teeth, and Georgianne in Illinois is asking whether those canines are still there or whether they've fallen out. And they have fallen out. Brian says it was quite some time ago, maybe a month or longer.
A couple of weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks to a month ago. Brian noticed that he has in fact lost those initial sets of canines, and now he has got only his adult pairs remaining. And hopefully, if he does let off a yawn again, which will be no surprise after this grooming, it's quite typical behavior, we might be able to get you a glimpse into his mouth so that you can double check for yourself. And if any of you do have an easily accessible photo of Sindile showing us those extra canines, or the young pair growing with the adult pair, please be so kind as to post it on Twitter or any medium. I think Twitter might be a good one, with the hashtag Safari Live, and then everyone can get to have a look at exactly what we're talking about. And Abby, you'll be able to see those little folds and creases, and not ideal because there is some grass in there, but you can see how the ear is kind of hinging on those points as they flatten when he licks. Oh, he's kicked them forward, so I think that will give you a better idea of what we were talking about earlier. I think we can reposition ever so slightly, just a meter or two forward, and we'll get a better frontal view of him as he grooms. We've got a question through from Heather asking if I've ever felt a leopard, and if I have, how does it feel compared to the coat or fur of a lion? Sadly, Heather, I've never felt either a lion, a leopard, or a cheetah, so I cannot help you. But I think a leopard's coat does look slightly softer and ever so slightly furrier than a lion. But that could just be an optical illusion because of the very different colorations on the coats. And I guess a big difference will also be regarding the age of any given lion or leopard that one may be stroking. And Brian and I were just talking earlier of how wonderful it would be just for a minute or two to be able to play rough and tumble with Sindile. It's obviously a very selfish thought because they are wild animals, and we must remember that, and I feel strongly that wild animals belong in the wild. That's where they're most happy.
I think it'd be quite soft.
So Brian you've heard, says he thinks it'd be soft. I couldn't agree more. I think his coat would be very soft, and if you could choose one animal to stroke, what would it be? Why don't you let us know your thoughts? Would it be a lion, a leopard, or a cheetah? What are your guys' thoughts as to if you could hypothetically get 1 minute to spend tumbling around and playing with any one animal out of those three cats, what would you guys choose? I know for a fact it would be a leopard. Although Now, having said that, it would be quite nice to play with a lion too, just to feel how strong they are. The leopard's certainly more manageable, I think, in terms of size. And young Sindile over here would be my prime target. Again, this is all hypothetically speaking, so do not fear, I am not about to jump out of the vehicle and attempt anything of the sort. And I don't think Brian is either.
Definitely not.
Well, I must say a very, very big thank you to Arcadia for sending through a picture of Sindile's double canine that we can now share with you. So thank you so much for your help. It really does make a big difference to us, having all you guys helping us out from all around the world. And it's important that I remind you that if ever you do come out on safari to Djuma or Arathusa or the surrounding camps, please make sure you let us know so that we can organize to visit and meet one another, and you get to see a little bit about how our operation runs on the ground here. That would be the least we could do to repay all of you for your help and support that you lend us. Well, got a funny comment through from Arcadia, who we've just been chatting to, and they mentioned that they are going to be selfish, or she's going to be selfish, and wants 2 minutes, not just one, with the leopard. So you're changing the rules here a little bit, but that's fine. And 1 minute with a male lion. And she specifically said she wanted it to be with this 1-year-old leopard cub. And I'm told Christy also has chosen leopard as her one animal that she would like to pet or play with. Well, interesting. Now we've got a few that are onto the male lions, and that's Heidi and Morning Glory, and their reason being is that they would like to be able to feel what that big shaggy mane feels like. Now Sindile is just rubbing it in now, saying, "Oh, wouldn't you like to be scratching my chin?" We would, Sindile, but we obviously don't expect you to allow us to do that. And merely the fact that he is so comfortable with us, so close to him, is more than we can ask. It's ridiculous how relaxed he is with our vehicle. And for me to be this close to a wild animal, getting such great views of him, will be a far better and more memorable experience than ever playing with one that is in captivity. Again, that is just my opinion, but I could think of nothing better than exactly what we're doing right now, sitting just meters away from him. And this is interesting. We've got Rose Lee now saying that she is more interested in feeling the paws of young Sindile, which he's just been using to transport himself away from us. I wonder where he's going to go next. He's still behind us. And there was another viewer who, also on the subject of paws, wanted to know what it would feel like, or actually to compare his hands or her hands to the size of a male lion. And that was Jan. And unless you've got very big hands, I'm sure the paws would be bigger than yours. Where are you off to now, Sindile? He's just off to the left of our vehicle there. I really wish there was some potential prey for him to hunt. Not because I'm concerned about his hunger, but more for the joy of watching him leap and bound after something. But there doesn't appear to be anything in this area. That could change at any moment, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware. But if you are new to the Safari Live experience, I must reiterate that we never know exactly what may happen, and we very often get pleasantly surprised, especially in scenarios like this where I have said that there's nothing around and therefore jinxed it, and he's probably going to prove me wrong shortly. As he stands still, it's incredible how well he blends in. I was chatting earlier that we're so lucky to be allowed to get very close to him in the vehicle. And Sarah's asking if that's been a recent development. Have we noticed him becoming more relaxed with the vehicle quite over the last few weeks? And I think certainly from before, when we didn't spend much time with him, it's only been recently, about 3 months ago, that him and his mother started spending more time. And look at his tail twitching there. What is he seeing? No, continuing. I think it's definitely fair to say he has got more relaxed with the vehicle, but he was never at any stage very scared of it. So I think it's fair to say that he has become accustomed to us. Well, while we loop ahead of him, we're going to send you back to James to see what he's up to, and we'll call you once we've got another good view.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Djuma, where we find ourselves far west of Arathusa. Nothing but Cabritum hereroense, the odd leafless knobthorn, and not much else to say for our morning. The leopard eluded us. Andrew is very ravenously hungry apparently. I've told him to shut up and stop complaining, but so we are carrying on in our quest. I did have a brief report on the very squelchy radio that they were following a male leopard on Arethusa somewhere else around here. I suspect quite strongly the same one. I'm just looking on the road here. Those are tracks of hyena. And so not much luck on the leopard front. Andrew, there's a female leopard there, look. Is that female tracks? Or is it hyena? Hyena tracks. It's quite advantageous having a cameraman who's not a complete gimp in the bush. Indeed, Andrew used to be a guide, didn't you, Andrew?
For about a year.
For about a year. That must have been a fairly scary thing to see. Anyway, so we're basically just bumbling now. So we are driving along here around about where the Nkahuma Pride was seen last, and they are not here anymore. Obviously, in Daniel in California, you read or heard something about them being attacked by a hyena, or some hyenas, many hyenas. Well, Daniel, there was an astonishing incident that took place about two days ago. First of all, the Nkahuma Pride killed a buffalo on Elephant Plains to the west of here, and they then went off to have a drink, because that is what lions do when they are full. And then the kill was stolen, well not stolen, was set upon by a small pride called the Shimungwe Pride, which consists of quite young lions. And they were in turn set upon by 17 hyenas, and they went up 4 different trees when eventually the hyenas managed to chase these lions off. Then Junior came back, and when Junior came back, the 4 lions in the trees apparently thought better of trying to tangle with him. They dropped out of the trees, apparently one of them jumping from a height of about 3 meters, fell to the floor and ran scarpered for the west. The hyenas then did the same at the sight of the large or rapidly growing Junior, and they went off and disappeared, and the Nkahuma Pride then came back. The hyenas then returned, gathered themselves together and attacked the Nkahuma Pride on the buffalo kill. And Junior apparently held it off for quite a long time on his own, before eventually all 6 Nkahuma Pride members were dangling from various trees around the buffalo carcass. So that's what happened to them. And then yesterday they were seen on Simbambili, which is just north of where we are now. Unfortunately, Djuma seems to be an entirely lion-free zone at the moment. Thank you, Daniel. Oh, there's a zebra. Astonishing. One must not look a gift pony in the mouth. Ha 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 ha. You get that one, Andrew? We're just near Arethusa Safari Lodge, and that zebra has possibly been having a drink in what is some of the last water that remains in this area. Very short little tail that one's got. Quite an old one, I think. Clicking joints, and you can see the mane. I don't know if you can see that the mane is slowly, seemingly starting to fall over, and that's not a very good sign in terms of health of zebras. There is another one just through here. We just might wait and see if it comes. Is it coming, Andrew? There it is. Look at that. Now it's quite interesting. The one in front there, the mane was starting to fall over. This one, the mane is standing up. Now, falling over mane, like I said yesterday, is a sign that health is starting to wane. And I suspect it's probably nutritional health, and much longer tail on that one too, and probably age. And the first one that went past is certainly not in quite as good a nick as that one there. It looks to be in the flush of youth, in his prime, a bit like Andrew. But for the embarrassing welt on the front of his head, of course. Right, let us carry on gently. We're going to drive past the dam at Arathusa, and we'll see if anything's there, and then we'll head for home. Riga's battery is mercifully recharged and functioning at optimal. There's a monkey running towards us at great speed. Thank you for X-Ranga, who said I should take the sounds that these Land Rovers make and turn them into a song. I think it would be a fairly unattractive song, to be honest, but I shall now give it some thought. Right, we're going to stop here and say goodbye to you. There are some hippopotami over here in this waterhole. It's been a quiet morning, but it's the most stunning dawn I suspect I've ever seen, with the golden orb of the African sun rising through a honey-coloured mist with some marabou storks feeding in the foreground, and that was the sort of highlight of my morning. So a big thank you to Andrew on camera today. He's disrobed, taken off his balaclava, and he no longer looks like he's about to engage in some form of criminal activity. And obviously a big thanks to Tara and Nikki in the final control room for feeding through your wonderful question, and a huge thanks to all of the comments and questions from all of you. Thank you very much. I do learn so much from you, and we will see you later this afternoon. I am not on drive this morning, so I will this afternoon. I am on drive this morning, I think. Yes, I am. I will see you tomorrow morning during another wonderful African dawn, and I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, morning, whatever you happen to be doing, wherever you happen to be in the magnificent planet that we call home. See you later, and thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Welcome back, and by the time we had got into position here, Sindile was already lying down in the shade of a small guarri bush. It looks like a Natal guarri bush that he's seeking refuge under, and it's the guarris that are the major source of green at this time of the year. Most other trees have lost their leaves or they've been eaten, but the magic and Natal guarris have got very, very acidic leaves that are not tasty at all, and thankfully, because it's now providing Sindile with some shade and a refuge from the sun. It's going to get a lot hotter today, probably up to 25 degrees Celsius, and I'm guessing he's probably not going to move too far in the course of the day. Well, what a great morning it's been here on Djuma and Arathusa Private Game Reserves. We got lucky when we found this guy, because if we hadn't, I'm not sure how much other action was around, but thankfully the Game Drive channel here on Djuma should be back up and running this afternoon, and that way we'll be able to communicate with the other guides and share secrets about what's happening out here. Anyway, a very big thanks for following the show, sending through all your comments, suggestions and helpful facts and info along the way, and also thanks for sending through some funny thoughts about hypothetically deciding which animal you would like to pet if you could have the choice to. I think some people got onto elephants in the end, so they strayed a bit from the cats, but no problem, and thanks for letting us know all your thoughts. Thanks Brian, good job, and thanks to Nikki and Tara for directing the show. We're going to leave you for the last minute with Sleepy Sindile. Have a great day or night depending where in the world you are, and be sure to tune in to the Sunset Safari. It's going to be Brent and myself heading out in search of any action. Also, just a friendly reminder before you go that as of Friday, we will be heading out half an hour earlier in the morning and half an hour later in the afternoon. And that's simply to fit in with the changing seasons.